Hey guys, welcome back to the What's Next podcast, coming to you from beautiful Monterey, California. Of course, as always, brought to you by LiveWellTherapeuticMassage, right here on the beach. Boy, it's a beautiful day. It's funny, I started this small business about 10 years ago, and down here by the beach, and I'll talk to people, and I'll say, where are you located? And I say, well, down by the, where the Chevron is. No. Do you know where that hotel is with the restaurant on the top? And they're like, no. Like, where Cody's body piercing is? They all say, oh, yeah, okay, I know. So today, I'm so happy to have Mr. Vaughn in today, Cody Vaughn.
Thanks for having
me. How are you today, my friend?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Good.
How are you?
Good. So, yeah, we moved in here about the same time. You might have been here about a year before me. Is this the best place in the world?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, my God.
Born and raised.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
I born and raised in the Monterey area, and I've been piercing out here now for 20 years.
Right.
This year will be 20 years. And
get right up in that mic, man.
Oh, gotcha.
You're a musician. You know this. Come on.
Sorry, it's been a long time. But, I've been piercing here for a long time, and when I was younger, kind of wanted to get away from home and all that, and almost made it, and almost moved out to Oregon, really liked it out there.
Yeah.
And then this whole idea I had of opening my own piercing studio just came to fruition a bit faster than I thought it would, and it just kind of happened. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm staying in Monterey then.
It's funny, I was talking to one of my clients, and she came in to get a piercing from you, and she's like, well, that's the same guy that I think gave me a belly button piercing in Seattle. And then he also gave me another piercing when he was living in wherever you were living before that. It was it was so crazy to see, Cody right here started his own place. So you've been up and down the coast a little bit.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
The piercing world's kind of a small world.
Sure.
So a lot of us know each other.
Yeah.
But I've pierced throughout the U.S., I teach body piercing.
Do you really?
So
get a little class going?
We have, there's the Fakir Musafarfoundation, which is in San Francisco, and Fakir Musafar is one of the early pioneers of body piercing that's really well known in the piercing world.
Okay.
So he started a piercing school at his kitchen table in Menlo Park in, I believe it was 1991.
Okay.
And really small, intimate setting,
Sure.
couple people, Fakir and whatnot. Then it became a thing in San Francisco that he was doing. So I went out there as a student in 2007, 2008. And
you actually went to his class? Mm-hmm. Oh, no kidding. Yeah. How cool.
And they couldn't get rid of me.
Sure.
So I just kept coming back to every class. I'll just sit in the back.
Just part of the furniture at this point.
And eventually I came on as an instructor. So I've been teaching there in San Francisco since 2011.
Oh, through him. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Right on.
And then we have a nonprofit organization separate from Fakir called the Association of Professional Piercers.
Okay.
That's been around since the early 90s. I've been a member of that for a long time, and then I was elected as a board member for that. So from 2014 to 2020, I was a board member for that. So
that's a big board, or what? Tell me more about that.
A little over a handful of people: president, vice president, medical liaison, membership liaison, outreach coordinator, international liaison. So it's an international nonprofit organization. So I've taught we have an annual conference. Do in Vegas every year. So
right. Yeah, actually, I know sometimes you guys will take off, and I won't see you for a few days. And we just got back to the piercing from the piercing convention.
It's it's classes all week and mingling with peers.
Right,
and
right.
Whatnot.
That's probably more than anything.
It's great for the staff too. I want them to be a part of it. So we just shut down the shop and all right, we're all going to Vegas for the week.
Oh, it's Vegas. I was thinking
LA,
but
the worse. For the better or the worse, it's Vegas. So I've taught out there. I got to teach in Russia in 2018. Got to pierce out there and teach out there. And then Mexico, a sister organization called LBP, got to go out to Mexico and teach and pierce out there. And then most recent, 1 month ago, it's been like a month now. I got to go out to Brazil, taught out there at a conference called GEP, and got to do some piercings out there.
Wow.
And then got to do, so with body piercing, kind of separate, kind of joined, you have ritual stuff too. So Fakir's partner, Cleo, has been involved in the ritual side, and she's a professional dominatrix.
Sure.
So also like the kinky side,
that
sort of stuff. So found out that her and I were both going to go to the Brazil conference. And we were at the Fakir class talking, and she came up to me and she's like, "Oh, I have great news for the Brazil conference. We're going to do a big energy hook pull." So that's where you do the piercings, like through the chest or the back. You put the hooks in, and people like pull from the hooks,
I've
from
seen
each
that.
other, from stationary objects. And she's like, "Yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to have 25 people. We're going to do it on the beach at night under the moon. We're going to have capoeira drummers." I'm like, "This is amazing. This is going to be great."
But you first.
She's like, "Yes, and you're in charge of the hooks." I'm like, "Oh, okay, no pressure."
Oh, no.
So went out to Brazil, had a great time. Everybody out there was just absolutely fantastic.
Sure.
And got to see a bunch of friends that I haven't seen in years and whatnot. So we did that, and then we had myself and some other fantastic piercers that were out there teaching as well. We did the big hook ritual and everything. So throwing the hooks in, did some cheek spears, little third eye piercings.
Right.
Went out to the beach, had like a little fire going on, had like 25 people out there doing the ritual stuff, and it was magic.
Wow.
It was beautiful.
You just strung them up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I've seen that like in Indian rituals. It must come from an American Indian or?
Different practices.
Was it?
In different areas. Some Native Americans participated in stuff. There's like Sundance and Okipa.
I see, right.
And, different meanings for different cultures.
Different meanings?
Yeah.
It seems like a coming of age for men or something, isn't it? Maybe it's so long ago I saw that.
It differs a lot depending on the specific practice, the ritual. There is so Fakir, he was born in the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken. And he started what he called body play. So he was inspired by things like, National Geographics. So he had a National Geographics magazine, and in this article, it was describing, I can't remember now where the group of people were from, but an initiation when they became fathers was they would take these coconut shells and they would do these perforations in the nostrils, kind of put it through, and slowly it would like pierce through it over the course of hours or days, and they would have this piercing, and that was like the mark of like, I'm a dad.
I'm a dad. Oh, okay, cool.
So that was what inspired him as like a wee lad to do his first piercing.
Yeah.
So in class, we had talked about that for a long time, and we were like, we don't know like what issue of National Geographics it is. There's so many.
Thousands. Right.
We had a student at the class that worked with Stanford, and she was like, I've got access to like a National Geographics database. I could probably narrow it down.
Yeah.
So we found the March 1934 issue of National Geographics. I've got a copy of it in the studio. So it was such a trip to be able to read the article. Just going through, it's a really great article, and reading it and being like, that was the inspiration for his first piercing on himself when he was a teenager.
Sure.
Was
that African or was that in Brazil? Do you remember in that article?
No, it was, I want to say it was Samoan.
Okay.
But I could be mistaken.
Sure.
I'd have to reread it to remember.
That would add up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But cool stuff.
Did you get hung up by yourself?
No, I've done a lot of that stuff myself in the past.
Have you?
For this thing in Brazil, like I just wanted to focus on just being a facilitator.
Sure.
And, once we got done with like the actual piercing stuff, once I was out there, it was just my job just to, kind of walk around.
Right.
Make sure nobody's getting lightheaded.
Yeah.
Make sure nobody's hooks are getting shallow or ripping or slipping or anything.
Right,
so just keep an eye on everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the only kind of ritual that was going on, or?
For that conference, like usually when we do stuff, it's really different when we're doing stuff at a conference in the U.S. because like in Vegas, there's no piercing. We can't pierce at the hotel or anything like that. So it's all just
it's a state law or something?
Yeah, it's just not allowed.
Oh, no kidding.
With the health departments and whatnot. So no, there's no actual hands-on piercing going on at the Vegas conference. But at the international stuff, a little more relaxed. We can do
right.
stuff we want. So when I went to Russia, it was kind of last minute, and I was doing a class on a piercing called daith, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to do a daith piercing?" And I was like, "We can do that." They're like, "Yeah, you can do it." I was like, "At the hotel?" They were like, "Yeah." I was like,
Really?
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
And then same thing in Brazil. We had kind of a 2-story setup there, and we set up one of the lower rooms as like a little makeshift piercing room.
Kind of, yeah.
So they were like, "Do you want to do a daith piercing for your daith class?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do that."
Right.
So
But tell me what a daith is. I don't know what that means.
So the inside of the ear, there's this little
Oh,
part
I see.
there called a daith piercing.
Oh, okay.
It's credited to a piercer named Eric Dakota.
Okay.
He's actually out here in Santa Cruz piercing. He invented, several different piercings. And it's just my favorite piercing.
Yeah.
Just Eric Dakota came up with the daith piercing, and he taught my friend Ken Coyote how to do the daith piercing. Ken, who's the director of the Fakir Musafarfoundation, he taught me how to do daiths, and he did my daith piercing. So I just love them.
What makes it more of a tricky thing? You got to go you almost have to go through the cartilage twice, eh?
It's just it's a smaller, tighter spot to get into.
I see, right.
And the angles for it to look how I want it to look. I'm a bit of a snob with the aesthetics on it, just going back to like how Ken taught me how to do it. So just getting the angles and the depth and everything just right. And then it's anatomy specific. Not everybody has the ear shape for it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
One of the bummers with the piercing is it's not new in body piercing that every once in a while something will pop up on the internet like, "Oh, I heard if you go to the acupuncturist and have them mark this in the right spot, this little tragus here, then have your piercer pierce it. It's the weight loss piercing. You push on it, it curbs your appetite." So that popped up years and years ago, fizzed away, no big deal. So I don't know, like 7 years ago, something or other, it was like, "Oh, the daith piercing, it cures migraines." So in the piercing world, we hear this, we're like, "Oh God, like here we go, like here's another one, like it'll blow right over."
Yeah.
And it just blew up, and like just little groups on Facebook with people desperate for relief from migraines, being like, "Well, my sister's cousin got that daith piercing, and she swears it got rid of her migraines."
Yeah.
So there's no science to back it up. Like, power of placebo is strong, but no science behind it. But some people in the piercing world kind of took advantage of it. Like, "Yes, we offer
I was wondering
the
that.
migraine cure." And I've always been like really, really upfront with clients. Like, it's just a cute looking piercing that takes a long time to heal. Doesn't do anything for migraines. So
exactly.
if you want it because you like the look of it, let's do it. But I've had people where they're like, "I don't even care about the piercing. I'm just desperate for relief for migraine." Then I would just tell them, like, don't waste your time with the piercing. Like, talk to your doctor. See if like acupuncture is your thing. Like, give that stuff a shot.
Yeah. I heard that so many times.
Oh yeah.
As a massage therapist, because I'm always chasing migraines. And the main thing is I don't want to set off a migraine, but sometimes you do. Just pushing so much toxic crap into their bloodstream. Sometimes you're going to trigger a migraine, but then maybe they won't have them quite as often. So many people say, "Oh, what about that ear piercing?" And I thought to myself, well, dang, if that's going to cure those, I'd be willing to pay Cody to give those to my clients if it'll help them, because they're living through hell.
Oh, yeah.
So I went over and talked to your wife, and I think you were there too, and she was like, "Yeah, I did the same thing, and I still get migraines, so I wouldn't push that." It's like, okay, I had to check with a professional, though.
No, and if somebody got it done and they swear it cured it, then I'd be like, "I'm happy for you." I would be convinced, the power of placebo is strong, and that's great. But I'd be like, I'm happy for you. That's great. But I just feel like it'd be unethical to ever dangle that kind of a carrot in front of somebody.
To sell it that way.
Like, maybe it will, maybe it won't. So I just tell people, like, it won't, but it's a really cute piercing.
Yeah,
it takes a long
exactly,
time to heal, so make sure you want it.
When I went to school for massage, they were saying that you do release a lot of water, and most people will lose between 3 to 5 pounds per massage, But just like you said, it almost seems unethical for me to say that massage causes weight loss, because I'm not. I'm actually just releasing water all this kind of thing, and it'll probably come right back. That would be dishonest to sell it that way.
Yeah.
Honest, but dishonest. You know what I'm saying? You did lose the weight, but...
Well, you wouldn't want to set up any sort of like unrealistic expectations.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So you grew up here. Mm-hmm. What was your first job? Did you jump right into it, or did you deliver pizzas? Or
I moved out when I was 15.
You did, yeah.
Started working at, what was my very first job? My very first job was at Cannery Road. There was this little like woodworking shop. They sold like little fancy like carved bowls and stuff like that. It was the most boring job in the world.
Not a lot of traffic out there, is there?
This woman was willing to hire me when I was like 14, turning 15.
Yeah.
And then after that, what did I do after that? I worked at Walden Books.
Okay,
up at the mall when they were there.
Yeah.
Loved that
Long
job.
gone now,
had a blast working at Walden Books when we still had bookstores.
Oh, man, you must have learned so much.
I did.
What a great job at that time. We 16, 17.
I was 15, 16 when I was doing that. And then at the age of like 15 or 16, I was dead set in my head. I was like, I want to be a funeral director.
Really?
Like, that's what I want to do.
Wow. You've been wearing black ever since.
From the get-go. I was made for it, right? So I applied for a job in a mortuary when I was 16. They hired me. And then right away they were like, oh, we can't have you at 16. Like, you can come back when you're 17.
Oh, right.
So I came back, and I was almost 17. So they hired me when I was 16, almost 17. And I did that until I was 20.
Yeah.
So I was, for a little bit there, I was a funeral director and an embalmer. Did that. And I really loved the job.
Yeah.
Really, really loved it. I really, really loved working with the families and like trying to, help navigate, the difficult process of losing somebody and having the stress of setting up services and all the details and everything. But really, really liked it. Didn't like the corporation that owned the funeral home. They were very, very corporate.
I see.
So eventually got out of that, and I was like, well, I want to be a paramedic. So I went to MPC, did the EMT school stuff, and did the EMT stuff. Well, got my certification with EMT and started to apply to see if I could get a job as an EMT, and that's when I fell into body piercing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a studio in town. They're still here. They're called Creative Visions. They used to be on Lighthouse in Monterey, and I was going there to get pierced. And I was always really, really into piercing, but it never crossed my mind to pierce people.
To make a profession out of it, sure.
Never even on the radar.
Right.
And I came in one day, and the piercer was gone. And I'm like, hey, where's so-and-so at? And they're like, oh, he quit. And with no thought process behind it whatsoever, just like, bleh. I was like, are you guys looking for an apprentice? And the tattoo artist was like, come back tomorrow, talk to the boss. I was like, okay. So I came back the next day and spoke to the owner. The owner at the time, her name was Margie Perotti. And I walked in, and I was like, hey, they told me to come ask you if you would be willing to take me on as an apprentice. And it's funny because nowadays, it's kind of hard to get your foot in the door.
Sure, right.
With piercing and whatnot.
Anything.
And she's tattooing, and she just looks at me, and she was like, stick your hands out. I was like, okay.
One of those farmer ladies, huh?
And she was like, your fingernails are clean and your hands aren't shaky. Come back tomorrow. I'll start teaching you. And I was like, okay. So I came back, and, hats off to her. Without her, I never would have had my foot in the door of this world. And fast forward 20 years, and I got my own business piercing. I've had the privilege of traveling different parts of the world doing piercing.
Yeah.
Met my wife because of piercing.
Sure, right.
We got our family, got our kids.
And,
yeah. Crazy.
Got quite a family going now.
Yeah.
How about that? Congratulations.
Thank you. I got my wife. We're about to have, later this month will be our 8-year wedding anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. 2016.
So you actually got married while I was here?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Right. Okay.
Yeah, we started dating 11 years ago.
Sure.
We got married in 2016 at the aquarium. And I've got my 2 step boys, 13 and 17, and then my daughter that just turned 3.
Oh, right. Yeah. I remember when she was born. Yeah, right. How cool. Wow. I don't know her very well. I think she was military, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we met. She's originally from Florida.
I see.
She was in the Army, and she came out here for DLI.
Okay.
And that's how we met, like, way back in the day. She came to the studio to get a piercing, and I had done, like, a nose piercing or a tongue piercing on her or something like that. And we just kind of kept in touch over the years, and, you know, she moved away to here and there, and then eventually she came back to Monterey, and I was just opening up my studio, and I was like, this would be a lot easier if I had, like, somebody to help, like, run everything in the lobby and everything while I'm in the piercing room. So she came on, and we were running the studio together for a long time, and then we had our little one. So obviously, you know, she couldn't be working with our little one. And then she went back to school for medical assistant. So she finished that up. And she just applied for the LVN program at Hartnell. Yeah. So she'll find out in November.
Oh, how cool.
If she got in. So
it's a rough one, but my lady's a nurse.
Yeah.
And she was the charge nurse, and now she's managerial of that floor, you know. So, but yeah, she always talks about nursing school. Woo!
Yeah.
It's a train ride, boy, but, you know, hopefully you have a lot of family around to help you through it. That's basically what she always says. Well, so you're on the hook too, brother.
The tough thing, like, we don't have, like, much of any family out here. I've got my mom.
Okay, yeah.
And my mom and my brother, like, that's the only family I have out here. And so she's shooting for the LVN program. And then hoping once our daughter's a little older in grade school and everything, it'll be a little more feasible. She wants to go for RN.
Oh, cool.
But, you know, full-time job.
Yeah.
Stuff, you know.
Right. I had the Monterey Roller Derby Club in here.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we were talking a little bit, and they were saying, we've lost a couple people. One girl's moved, and another girl got pregnant. And I'm like, I know who you're talking about, right? It's like, sure enough, that was her, right?
Yeah, she's still doing the roller derby. She's been trying to get back into it as much as she can.
It's got to be great exercise. Oh, my God.
Have you gone out and seen one of those games?
I haven't.
It's exhausting to watch them. Like, I've got a few of them are clients of mine. And, you know, knowing some of them throughout the years and going to a bunch of the games. My wife's games and all that. And just once you, like, understand the rules, you know, it's much funner and you can, like, get into it and see what's going on. But, yeah, they're freaking athletes, man.
I'm telling you what.
Yeah,
you don't want to lip off some of those girls.
It is. Those folks are, like,
So when we had them in, it was some COVID was just kind of firing through, and they had lost their little place to have games. Basically, they didn't have a place to practice. So did that work out okay? Did they find a spot? Or
to the best of my knowledge, it's been really, really stressful. Just for the sake of, you know, there was Water City and Marina.
Santa Cruz. Oh yeah, that was the one that they couldn't use anymore.
And that place eventually closed down, so that leaves them in a tough spot. I think, if I'm not mistaken, sometimes they're able to use, like, the fairground for some of the practices. Some of the local schools for some of the practices. But it's been tough. I think like pretty much all of the games now for them are away games. Right. So, you know, it's a bit of driving to get to the games and all that.
Yeah, right.
They persevere. They're
good fun.
They're still at it and kicking ass. So.
That's kind of I wanted to have them on the podcast to, like, let's, you know, get it out there and maybe find somebody that has a place that they can use or whatever. Exactly. But I don't know if it ever worked out for them, right?
Well, it's such a bummer, too, because you remember, like, we used to have the skating rink out in the seaside.
That must have been before me. I came in from Michigan about 11 or 12 years old.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, I know I heard that somebody came up and down the coast that was in a wheelchair and just sued every single business that what happened? You know, there was a drive-in that we lost. There was a bunch of stuff, you know.
Well, we had, you know, like over on just a little bit down on Del Monte where the that new Montage is, like the Montage and Starbucks right there. That used to be the roller skating rink.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
And I think that place had been there like before I was born.
I think for sure.
Been there since like I think the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, right.
At least the 70s. But we had that place. That was like your go-to, like, mom and dad drop you off.
Right.
$5, you got money for like Slurpee and a pickle and
all exactly, that. Right. That's how I know how tiring roller skating is, from going to the roller skating parties and stuff. Well, we had a lot of ice skating parties. I don't know if you did that out in California.
Yeah, not a whole lot of
ice skating going on out here. Huh? A lot of kids out there wobbly ankles. How do we do this?
We're in in Michigan?
Grand Rapids.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the Furniture City, they call it.
Furniture
City.
City.
Amway and Steelcase and all those big furniture companies. And yeah, so beautiful place to grow up.
It's
Great
pretty.
place to, yeah.
Really
You've
pretty.
got some ties to Michigan too, don't you?
I had mentioned to you before that I've got an older brother who was originally here and then moved out to Michigan, and he's been in Boyne City.
Okay. Oh, that's up north. Yeah.
over
Used to have a
kind of by
cottage up there.
Charlevoix.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So he's been out
Crystal
there for-
Mountain, I think he's right by.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
But I had never made my way up into Michigan until during the lockdown of the pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, they had us closed down, like piercing and all that, for like a total of like 7 months.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, you remember. I mean, it was brutal, and I'm just watching the savings account and checking account drop, and we were paying our staff for as long as we could just to make sure we didn't want to lose everybody with nobody being able to work. And then thankfully, like, they were able to like pick up with the unemployment and all that.
Right.
So eventually I was like, you know, we got to pay our bills. We got to make sure we don't drown in this. So started calling up friends of mine throughout the country that had piercing studios that were allowed to be open. And I was like, kind of weird time, but do you need a piercer right now? And a bunch of friends were like, we're busy as hell. Like, we could use some extra help. So when can you fly out? I'm like, oh, can't fly, COVID, you know, this is like early COVID time and all that. I'm like, I'm driving.
Yeah.
He was like, when do you want to come out? I was like, I'll leave tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I got in the car and drove out to Nashville, went out to a good friend's shop in Nashville, pierced out there for a couple of weeks, then up to Ann Arbor to a good friend's studio, pierced out there for a week. And while I was there, I was like, I'm going to surprise my brother. So drove up to Boyne City, and I parked in the driveway of his house, and I called him, and we're just kind of chit-chatting, and whole time
Get out of here.
talking
That's so
to him,
cool.
and I go up and I knock on the front door, and he was like,
hold on a minute.
hey,
Somebody's
hold on.
at the door.
I think one of my coworkers is here. I'm going to let you go. I'll call you right back. Comes to the door, and he was just blown away that I was out there. And it's beautiful out there.
Oh, man.
Gorgeous.
Holy cow. I've only been up there a few times, you know, to Crystal Mountain. But, oh, man, of course, I've been all over the UP and everything else, scuba diving in Lake Superior and all that stuff. So, yeah, I just fall in love with that northern Michigan.
It's pretty.
Yeah. There's nobody there.
Yeah. It was
Nobody
nice.
there.
The city that he's in, like, it's I mean, it's a fair amount of people there.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not like a bustling city or
Yeah,
anything.
right.
But, you know, they're right next to one of the lakes, too. It's like just right outside of his front yard and all that. So it's just gorgeous.
A lot of seasonal people, too, there probably. You know, kind of cleans out when you get 3-4 feet of snow on the ground.
Yeah, I'm sure, right?
No, thanks.
So I used to play music.
Okay, right.
And I haven't for a long time.
Sure, right.
So,
that was one thing I got back to.
I was a metal kid growing up, right?
Okay.
You know, getting into rock and metal and all
Sure,
that sort
right.
of stuff. So for my 12th birthday, my parents asked me what I wanted for, I think it was Christmas. Maybe it was my birthday. They're like, what do you want? And it was probably from watching like MTV, like music videos and all that. I was like, I want a guitar. They're like, all right, I'll get you a guitar. So they bought me a guitar. And I'm thinking, like, this is going to be pretty easy because I'm watching the music videos and all you got to do is like, just do this.
how hard
like,
can it be?
Can't be that hard. So I got the guitar. And I remember I was watching a music video. It was a Red Hot Chili Pepper video for Under the Bridge. And I'm watching John Frusciante, like, do that opening part of Under the Bridge. And I'm like, oh, shit, you got to do stuff with the other hand, too?
Crap.
Like, I thought it was just this. Like, what is all this stuff going on? So my parents, bless them, they signed me up for guitar lessons. So every Saturday morning from the age of 12 until I was 19, I would get my Saturday morning guitar lessons with a local guy here. His name's Steve Baker.
Okay.
Did lessons with him for the longest time, and we played some music together later on. And then never like really like did anything like band wise.
Sure, yeah.
Like that. And then my boss at the mortuary, his name was Steve Naylor. Really, really great guy. And he had two sons. Well, has three sons. Two of them lived here, and they were playing music together. And he would always screw up the name of their band. So he was telling me, like, oh, yeah, my kids, they play in a band, Suicidal Tendencies. I'm like,
like, what?
What? I'm like, I want to meet your kid. Who the hell is your kid?
Right.
So, you know, we met each other and we started playing music together, like in the garage at, you know, his dad's house. So I would drive out to Salinas to their house, we'd be jamming, and I'd be on call with the mortuary. So my boss is at the house, and he's watching me. He's like, "You're on call, aren't you?" I'm like, "I got my pager on." Like,
Right.
Okay, so we'd be playing music until my beeper would go off and be like, "Okay, coroner's office needs us. I got to take off, guys. I got to go drive out and do stuff." So we did that for a while, and then eventually we made a little band together in the area. We were called Pridesubject.
Right on.
And back when we had a bit more of a music community going
Sure,
on
yeah,
in
yeah,
Monterey.
here.
I've been told like it comes in big waves
Does it?
over the years where it'll be like a big healthy music scene, and then it'll just completely die for a long time, and eventually it comes back because the venues, they kind of come and go.
That must be where we're at now. We're kind of at a lull.
It's dead.
No place to really go dancing or see any good jazz or anything like that. And it's like,
We had like
this is the town where they have the biggest jazz festival in the world, I think. Probably should have a jazz club here. I don't know. Call me
most
stupid.
of my life not realizing that the Monterey Pop Festival happened here.
Right.
Because we don't talk about it. There's no statue. There's
No,
nothing
that's
commemorating
true, right.
it. I always thought, well, they must mean Monterey, Mexico, because nobody talks about it
Yeah.
in Monterey. So later finding out, like, Hendrix, like all of this stuff was here in Monterey, right?
Lit his guitar on fire. No, that was right here.
Exactly.
Janis Joplin. What? Wait, what?
And we have no statues, plaques, commemorations. Like, we don't have any kind of like annual festival that makes a big to-do about it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bummer.
Right,
We
right.
could be much more of like the music place.
Yeah.
But so did the band stuff for a while, and we used to have on Alvarado, above Taco Bell. Is there still a nightclub above there? I have no idea. I haven't been out there in ages. It used to be, it was like the Hippodrome.
Okay.
And inside, it was like your typical like club with like the hip hop music and everything else. But inside of the club, there was a little double door that went into the Lava Lounge.
Okay.
Lava Lounge, that was like the metal spot. That's
Oh,
where
no kidding.
That's where you went to see like the metal bands. And all that. It
Right.
was awesome.
Just melting the metal.
So good.
Lava. Right?
So we had that for a long
Love it.
time. And then there was Bluefin for a little bit on Cannery Row. And then I guess like stuff went bad with like gang fights or stabbing or something. So the city was like, no
Yeah,
more Bluefin
right.
or whatever. And for the longest time, we had over like one street up from Cannery Row was Jose's Mexican restaurant. They still have a location in Seaside.
Oh, yeah.
And Jose's downstairs, they had a little music venue set up.
Okay.
What was it called? Jose's Underground. I can't remember.
Oh, it was owned by the restaurant above.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
And that family, those guys were awesome. They took such good care of all the bands.
Really?
They'd feed us food when we got there. They would actually pay us money for like people coming in and paying at the door. Like,
Crazy.
you can never make money playing shows
Yeah.
out here. And for a while there, it was really healthy, and we had like a whole local music scene
Yeah.
with all of these great bands, and everybody knew each other. And then we'd get more and more bands from out of the area coming in, and got to meet a lot of like really awesome people.
Really, yeah.
And it was great. We did that
How
for
cool.
a while. We did like little miniature tours, like just we had a 1977 Dodge Mini Winnie RV
That is
because
right.
we needed something big enough to haul
Sure.
stuff around. So got this old beat up Mini Winnie that was just like holding on by a thread, and we would drive up like we'd do shows in Oregon and Washington.
Oh, no kidding. You went that far in that
Idaho
little
and
thing.
Nevada and all that. And yeah, it barely got us by. We were playing a show one time. There was this awesome band from San Diego, Oceanside, called The Burning of Rome.
Okay.
These guys were
Great name.
phenomenal.
No kidding.
Unbelievable music, unbelievable stage presence, and we played a bunch of shows with them throughout the years. They would come down here. They invited us to San Diego, and they were just the funnest group of guys and gals.
Really?
Just awesome. So we played a show in San Diego. I think it was San Diego. It was either LA or San Diego. We got done with the show at like 2 a.m. or whatever. And then we needed to, no, it was LA. Played the show in LA, got done at 2 a.m., and we needed to follow them to drive to Oceanside, because the next day we're going to do a show at their like recording studio. That they had. They had a really cool setup. And our 77 Dodge Mini Winnie, as soon as we leave the venue in LA, fuses, something went out.
Sparks.
No lights, no headlights.
No, right.
So it's 2:00 in the morning, and we're driving from LA to Oceanside with no headlights.
It's still running,
no
but
turn
no lights.
signals, but just
That's
no lights.
Funny.
So we're just like tailing the little 15-seater van from the Burning of Rome, and just following them as close as we could, and it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, right. Just keep on the bumper. Maybe they won't notice.
But metal, we got through it somehow.
Metal survives. It was just the metal that kept us going.
It was good times, man. Good times.
How fun is that? Did you keep a hold of those guys? To keep track of those guys now?
Yeah,
or?
like they're all good guys. Everybody, for the most part, kind of went their separate ways at some point. So the drummer, Timmy, unbelievably talented guy. He had like the actual music education, knew theory, and went to school for it. And I think he's in San Jose now. I think he's teaching music.
Oh, okay,
now.
yeah, of course.
And then Aaron, the singer, super talented guy, unbelievable singer. He had a band before us called Retribution, and like everybody in town knew,
oh, no
that's
kidding.
the band was
Right.
Retribution. Aaron's still here. He was doing recording, engineering, and all that for a long time. Right over on Wave Street, right over here on the other side of the lake, there used to be Wave Street Studios.
Okay, yeah. Sounds familiar.
They tore the building down
Did
a few
they?
years ago, so
Yeah,
that's gone.
before
But
my
yeah,
time.
Aaron was recording here for a long time. Our guitar player, Bill, he moved to Nevada. And then our bass player, Scott, he had moved for a bit, but he's back in town now, so that's
Yeah.
cool. So one of these days we'll
Yeah.
all get back together.
What kind of music were you putting out? It was metal, but it was
kind of like
were you
metalish. I don't know.
putting out your own music or just kind of
We
doing
were
some
doing
covers?
our own music.
A little bit of both.
Couple covers we
Sure,
would do
yeah.
and play live shows and whatnot.
fun.
But it was great.
Oh,
it was just
great.
such a good
Yeah.
period of my life.
Yeah,
just fun
right.
times.
What type of bands were you trying to cover?
We did a cover of a Tool song called "Sober." So we would do that
Sure.
one. We did our other go-to cover was do you know Machine Head?
Sure.
Bay
sure.
Area
Yeah.
thrash band. We did a cover of their song called Davidian. So that was our go-to was Davidian.
That's great.
And I think in the end, I think we were kind of like a wannabe Machine Head sort of band was kind of how our sound was.
Yeah.
We just weren't as good.
Yeah, right. But in our heads, we were phenomenal.
At
right?
the time, up on that little stage, we were huge.
I was telling Wade the other day, I had a client came in and her name was Kyoko.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, all my stupid rock and roll brain can hear is "Mi loco, mi loco." So this is stuck in my head to go out. I had to go out and buy a Cool Chamber album the other day just to get it out of my head, man. I love that one though. Get out of there! Get out of there!
I know, right?
Funny what triggers you.
I walk every single day at the studio. I hum a lot, in between things. That's just kind of my thing, and I constantly just randomly get songs stuck in my head.
Exactly.
And I can't pinpoint. Did I hear the song at the coffee shop, or
Right.
it'll just be a random thing that pops into my head, or it's my daughter's children's songs. So driving my employees crazy because I'll just be walking around skimming a rink skimming a rink doo. But yeah, just random songs that'll stick in my head. So
Dad songs now.
when you hear random nonsense coming through your
Yeah,
walls,
right.
it's what song is that? That's me humming something silly. We have some pretty random conversations too. When we don't have any clients in the studio and staff, we're just joking around,
Right.
talking about XYZ. So we all do that.
I
when
know
we don't have any
exactly.
customers in,
Right. There's that downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take me back to the jewelry, man, because this is what people talk about most about you is the quality of the jewelry. And I was talking to you about your earplugs there, and you're like, it was some kind of an epoxy mixed with real gold.
Oh yeah. So these are.
You're like, oh yeah, these are my favorites, man.
These are my go-tos. The plugs in my ears. They're from a company called Glassware Studios.
Okay.
They're out in Oregon. And it's blown glass, and it's gold fume infused, so that's how it gets that goldish hue in there.
I see, right.
But yeah, body jewelry is a huge part of how well your piercing is going to do. So the jewelry that we're looking for when we're doing, especially a new piercing, is we want implant grade materials. So when you see something that's labeled as surgical steel, There's no such thing as surgical steel. It's kind of a phrase, you know?
Okay.
So it's not an actual like designation or like
Yeah.
specific recipe with the alloy
I see.
or anything. So implant grade has nothing to do with body piercing, but implant grade meaning like, okay, this specific alloy of titanium or steel is the exact same, you know, recipe that would be used for somebody's hip replacement or pacemaker. So you have organizations like the ASTM, which is a international organization where they test materials for different uses
I see.
and purposes. So you can pick up like a little Sharpie or dry erase marker, and like you'll see like ASTM with like a little number, and that's designating like a specific like this is safe
Toxicity
for this,
type thing, or-
toxicity,
I see.
safe for this, you know, etc.
Yeah.
So they're one of the organizations that'll be like, okay, so this specific alloy of titanium, not only the ingredients, but the process of how it's made, you know, from scratch to finish.
Yeah.
All of these things together, we accept that as like, yes, this is safe for implantation in the human body.
It absolutely will not corrode and, you know, that kind of thing.
exactly.
Whereas
It's not
surgical
gonna-
steel, not necessarily that high of a grade.
Yeah, exactly. And,
I
you
see.
know, like there's lots of different alloys of titanium that aren't meant to go in somebody's body.
Yeah.
They're for other like industrial applications.
Right,
So
right.
steel, titanium, all these things, you know, different alloys. So we go with implant grade materials.
Okay.
Implant grade materials are going to cost more than like kind of like costume jewelry
Okay.
stuff that you're going to find. So one of our main suppliers is a company called Anatometal, and they're right out here in Santa Cruz.
Oh, okay.
They've
Yeah.
been around for a long time.
I see.
So Anatometal is fantastic. Neometal has been around for a long time.
And they're manufacturers, or
These are
they-
jewelry manufacturers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
so-
They're not just warehousing from
No.
somewhere overseas. or-
Exactly. So what's
Okay,
really
yeah,
great
yeah.
about companies like Anatometal, Neometal, our gold company, BVLA, which is out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing's outsourced. Like everything is done in-house.
Right.
Like all of the machining, the gem setting, like everything's done in-house. It's not outsourced.
Yeah.
So that's where the money comes in. You
Yeah.
know, spending more for it. And
So let me ask a stupid question. Is gold like a
Yeah.
surgical metal?
So yes,
But
or
it's
no.
softer, so-
gold doesn't have. There is such thing as an implant grade material of gold that's
Oh.
used for. I believe it's used in like certain like brain surgery, like
Oh,
little
I see.
chips and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah, okay.
Not a thing in body
Okay.
piercing. So with gold and body piercing, we're looking for 14 to 18 karat solid gold, nickel free, vanadium free. Think of it like a cookie recipe,
Yeah.
where again, like you have your gold, so like 18 karat gold, that's 75% gold, and that's 25%. They don't have to tell you.
Right.
So
right, I
with
see.
steel and titanium, we can request a mill certificate from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And that mill certificate is from the source of like the steel rods, the titanium rods. So we can read like, okay, this is ASTM F1295 titanium. Cool. I can see this is implant grade titanium.
Yeah.
Gold isn't milled, so there's no mill certificate for gold.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You could get a chemical analysis from the manufacturer, and that'll tell you this has X amount of gold, X amount of copper, X amount of palladium,
Oh, okay.
whatever they're using in the alloys.
Yeah.
So with gold, again, you get what you pay for. So plated gold, you know, it's not safe for a body piercing.
I see. Right. Yeah.
24 karat, that's pure gold. Beautiful, but too soft and malleable, so it scratches easily. So that's why we
right.
don't use 24 karat gold
Okay.
like with body piercing. Like
I
pretty
see.
to wear like on your body,
Yeah.
not gonna hold up as well.
not gonna hold
in
up.
your body. So 14 karat, 18 karat.
I see. Right. Right.
Yeah. So a lot of times what happens, you know, we've got a lot of really, really nice, you know, fancy, beautiful gold pieces.
Yeah.
So I've got this one piece that I posted on social media called Mountain Light. And it's a 14 karat yellow gold piece, would go in like a septum or a daith piercing. And it's got genuine gemstones in there, green tourmaline, savorite. It's beautiful. It's a little over $3,000. So sometimes what happens is a person comes in, they're like, "Oh, that's really pretty. How much is that one?" And I'm like, "Oh, that one's, you know, $3,200." And what they heard in their head was like, "Wow, so like everything here costs 30." It's like, no. That one costs
particular one.
$3,200. We have gold that's like all kinds of different price levels. And
Sure.
then it's like, hey, like if you don't want to spend that kind of money, titanium options, beautiful, just as safe for your body,
Right.
and a little easier on the wallet, because gold's always going to cost more, not because it's necessarily better than the titanium in terms of like safety for piercing, healed or fresh, but gold's a precious metal, so it's always going to cost more.
Yeah, right.
And if I'm not mistaken, this year gold hit like an all-time high.
Really?
For its price. Yeah, gold's just...
Should have bought in. Dang it.
I know.
Wow.
It never goes down.
You know.
It just
I know, right?
always going up.
So tell me about the process itself. Now, it seems like you're not doing... When my little girls got their ears pierced, we went to the mall. We got 2 teenage girls with ear piercing guns.
Yep.
One on each ear.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, go, bang. So we didn't have to do the second one.
Yeah.
You know, so... But I guess from your point of view, that's not a very sanitary way to do it. Is that what the reason is?
And I'll take you back. So
Yeah, tell me how... Right.
when we think about something like ear piercings, earlobe piercings, like it's the most normal. Like,
Sure.
Every little girl.
Since the beginning of time.
Every boy. Like it's
Right,
fine.
right.
Like ear piercings, whatever. And it wasn't always like a socially acceptable thing.
No.
And fast forward, rewind back to a time when ear piercings, like no like respectable person is wearing earlobe piercings. And at the time, not my words, people would say like the only people who had their ears pierced would be like gypsies or like, you know, sailors or,
Yeah.
or like, you know,
Right.
shitty, whatever.
Tattoo people, right?
What made it socially acceptable and desirable for earlobe piercings, like there was a time period in the Victorian era where it was fashionable, then it kind of died out, and it was Queen Elizabeth.
That brought it back or got rid of it?
Back. When Queen
She brought it back.
Elizabeth took the crown,
Yeah.
she inherited the crown jewels, and in that collection were earrings from the Victorian era, and she said she wanted to be able to wear those, so she got her ears pierced, and she wore them, and just like that, Western culture, you know, U.S., Europe, etc., it's like, well, every little girl, you got to have your ears pierced.
Right.
And that's what made it socially acceptable for ear piercings.
I see. When was that, you think? Queen Elizabeth.
Whenever Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, I know, right? I went to public school, man. Come on.
But
Both of my grandmas wore the clip-ons.
oh yeah.
You know, they didn't have piercings.
Yeah.
You know, they were from the sticks, and then they did well for themselves, but they never did get pierced.
Well,
Maybe born in 1910, somewhere around there. It just wasn't a thing, I guess.
No. Like fast forward later with the piercing pagodas and clairs and all that. Like the gun manufacturer did a fantastic job with marketing. You know, over like 1 million ears pierced or whatever. But the gun itself can't be sterilized.
Oh, I see. That's what I figured.
Can't sterilize
Yeah.
the gun, so it's like a cartridge that goes in, and it's just a spring-loaded action. So it's the jewelry itself. The jewelry is a little sharp, and the jewelry just slams through the ear. But that micro spray of that piercing, everybody that was pierced before you is on that gun.
Micro spray, right?
Next
right?
person
No, I
to
get
next
it.
person, and the jewelry itself, it's not implant grade, so it's not to say that your ear's
right.
gonna fall off.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us as kids, you know, we went to clairs and all that.
Right.
But there's definitely been a cultural shift because a lot of us growing up in the 80s, the 90s and all that, we grew up watching piercing become like this big thing. You know?
Right.
Now we're older, now we have kids, and now
Yeah.
we're like, well, yeah, you don't take the kids to clairs. You take your kids to the piercing shop to get their ears
Right,
pierced.
right.
So we get lots of kids at the studio.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think this week, the past like 4 days, I've had 3 5-year-olds, a 6-year-old, an 11-year-old, all first-timers getting their ears pierced.
But you don't do both at the same time. You have a lot of kids leaving with one
I
earring.
do, there's that does happen sometimes.
I bet.
And that's
right.
okay. when that
That's okay
happens.
too. Come back next
So,
year.
Some studios, they'll do the simultaneous
Yeah.
with piercing needles,
Sure.
you know, on the kiddos. I find it, in just my personal opinion, like too intimidating on the kid to have the 2 piercings
see.
on them. So
Yeah, yeah.
my preference, I like to do like just 1 piercing then the other.
Yeah.
Have a whole talk with the parents where it's like, you know, this is kiddo's choice. No bribing. You
Yeah.
know, if they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. It's okay. But I also feel like it's a really first like important lesson of autonomy. Because, you know, especially with girls, with women, like how many times have they, like, throughout life been, like, pressured into something they don't want to do, right? So when we're talking about something like, you know, your ear piercings, and this is your body,
Right.
this might be like your first experience with something having to do with, like, my choice, my body. You want it to be their choice.
Right.
And we don't want to be like me as the piercer or mom or dad sitting there like, you know, hey, you need to do this. You have to do this. Or like, hey, if you do this, I'll get you ice cream.
Right.
Like, I don't like the idea of this being like a girl, a woman's like first introduction to like their body and being pressured into something.
Right. Right.
So 99% of the parents, they're totally on board, and it's like, hey, like, we'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do the best I can to try to make it fun, make
Right.
it comfortable for the kiddos. And if we do it, awesome. If we don't do any, that's okay.
That's
if
okay
we
too.
do one and they tap out, it's like, hey, that's awesome. We made
Yeah.
progress. When you want to come back, we'll do the other one.
Yeah.
And usually when it happens, if we only get one and the kiddo, I'm done, taps out, usually by that night they're telling mom and dad like, I want to get the other one pierced. Then
really?
We'll usually see
really?
them booking the appointment like the next
no
day
kidding.
or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
day after. Like
Right.
they almost always come back and get the second one.
Just that
but-
1 second really hurt. Just
Well,
take a minute
with
for it
any
to.
double piercing, that second one's always just a little bit spicier than the first.
Oh, is it right? You know it's coming. Like, oh, here it comes. Oh no.
Every time.
Yeah, right. It's funny. I make, I joke around a little bit with my clients because sometimes we'll have a blood curdling scream from over there, you know. And it's like, well, sometimes I'm working on somebody and they're like, they start yelling. It's like, well, we kind of take turns between Cody and I making people cry, you know.
Often.
Not too often, no, but yeah, same with me too. But every once in a while, you get a car accident or something, you gotta get that limb moving. You gotta get, you know, a knot to let go or release, and sometimes it's just too much for them, you know. So,
you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, you know, with us being, you know,
Yeah,
wall to wall
right.
with each other. So when I first moved in, we had like a really cute, like little like antique thrift store next door here.
yeah.
And they moved out, and it wasn't vacant for long at all. And really quick, this gentleman came in, and he was going to open up a mixed martial arts studio.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, you know, cool. And I was in the studio one day, and these guys were like still in the process of like painting and setting stuff up. And I had like somebody come in. I think there was like mental like problems or drug problems or something. And they came in. They were kind of not making like a scene, but you could tell like, gotta keep.
They came in here or they came in your place?
They came into my studio.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
No intention of piercing or anything, but you know, kind of keeping an eye on. So dude from the mixed martial arts studio, he comes in and he was just like, hey man, just coming in to say hi, da da da. And he hangs around, and eventually the guy leaves, and he's like, I could tell that wasn't one of your clients, man. I got your back. I'm not gonna do anything. So he leaves, and I'm like, well, this is gonna be awesome having a mixed martial arts place.
Right.
So before they ever opened, a bunch of like the guys, the buddies, they're hanging out and they're sparring and doing their thing.
Yeah.
And it's so loud.
Oh no, you're like,
So
oh no.
unbelievably loud with like, you know, the grunting and the falling on the floor, and somebody slammed against the wall or whatever.
Oh, no.
And I'm on the other side, and I'm just like, I'm going to have to move. Like,
This is going to be rough.
This is like crazy loud.
Right.
And he last minute backed out. The owner of the building, Fred, told me like, I think like his car engine like blew or something. So it was like money to open this business or money for the car engine. Yeah, I'll just fix the car. And, and then you came along.
Well, you know, I've told the story a few times, but I drove by that sign so many times. It was like, there's not a chance in hell I could afford that place. Oh my God, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be the best place ever? God, I wish I could do that. And the sign went down. I was like, I knew it. You know, like a week later, the sign went back up. I'm like, come on, man. I owe it to myself to at least stop in.
Yep.
You know, and it was a fraction of what I thought it was going to be. You know, because it was ugly. It was concrete floors. There was no walls in here. There was nothing. You know, there was a big white area with a turquoise stripe around it.
That was from the MMA place.
They did that?
That was like the only thing they did.
So that was brand new?
They gutted it, and they just painted that one like turquoise line all the way across, and then they just stopped everything and they left.
Right. Yeah. So I had to come in. I had to build the walls, do the floors, put the doors in, and everything. You know,
you did a great job.
Yeah, well, thanks, but it made it less expensive. It's like, sweet, do it yourselfer.
You know, it's funny because
that was cool.
When I decided, like, all right, I'm going to open up my own studio. I originally had a spot in Pacific Grove picked out. small, cute little spot. And I'm like, yeah, like boutique-y, little, like, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, PG ain't going to allow a piercing shop. So I'm
Oh,
reading through all the
right.
ordinances and anything. And I'm like, no, we're good. I can totally open this. So I won't name names. A family that owns different, like, art galleries and stuff like that in Pacific Grove. They were the owners of this building. So I talked to them, came to an agreement on the price on everything. Like, all right, cool. Like, move-in dates projected for this. Like, all right, cool. So I start placing my orders with all my jewelry companies. And when I did it, you know, this was 2012 that I started everything to open up my own place. It was all DIY. Like, I'm going to do everything myself.
Exactly.
Like, I don't come from like a background of money from family or anything like that. So this was like all in, like everything I have saved, every credit card maxed out, like it's this or nothing. Let's see what happens. So I'm placing all of my orders for jewelry. Like, cool, I got the spot. Need to like get some contractors, do the build out and all that. And I didn't get the lease signed because the owner, she, you know, nice enough lady, but she was like, you know, I'm at home taking care of my husband. I think he had like dementia. I haven't had time to drop the lease. Right. I'll get it soon. I'm like, yeah, you know, I get it.
Right.
So I'm about to move in, and they were like, can we push it a week because we have some friends, and as a favor, we're going to let them have an estate sale in the vacant spot.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
like, oh, you know, that makes sense. Like,
sure.
you know, a week, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then after that happens, hey, can you come talk to us? And I was like,
about?
Yeah, like,
right?
Can we talk on the phone? Like, what's going on? They're like, we should talk in person.
Oh, no.
So I drive, and like they have like the whole family there, like as backup. And I'm like, this doesn't look good at all.
Oh, no.
And they're like, so it's not going to work out. And the long story long was somebody that was there at the estate sale was like, this is a cute spot. What are you asking for it? Oh, we have so-and-so that's going to pay this much. I'll pay more than that. And they just pulled it out from under me, and I'm
That's
like...
That's kind of unethical, bro.
I'm like... And I,
no offense.
I didn't have that lease signed yet. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I've spent my life savings to get this up and running. I've already placed all of my jewelry orders and supply orders, and they were like, you should cancel those orders. And I was like, that's not how it works.
But I know, right? I got all my ducks in a row.
So I walk out of that meeting...
Oh,
devastated. I'm thinking like I'm ruined. I'm
ruined
like,
for years.
And I hop on Craigslist in the car, and I'm looking, and my spot and Matt at the computer repair store, those spots are vacant. I call up the owner, Fred, and I was like, hey, can I come look at the spot? And he's like, yeah. So I come out and I look at the two spots, and I was like, I like that one. Come to an agreement on pricing and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, I would like to sign a lease. He was like, okay, I can get it. I was like, I want to sign a lease right now. And he was like, I'll go upstairs and print one. He prints it out. I'm like, done.
I know, right? Well, what a relief that must have been.
Oh, my God.
Because your ducks were already in a row, like I said.
Well, it's funny, too, because a good friend of mine, his name's John Johnson, and he owns a beautiful studio in Long Beach called New Flower. And he gave me a lot of advice with opening up a business.
I see.
He did everything like the correct way.
Right.
Business plan, loan through the bank, like everything. And I'm like, I'm going to do it all myself.
Yeah.
And
like
he was the one that had told me, like, so what's going to happen is you're going to find a spot, and it's the perfect spot. And something's going to happen, and you're not going to get it.
He said that?
And you're going to end up in a different spot, and it's going to turn out that this was actually the best spot that you can be, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because like our parking situation,
couldn't be better.
How close we are to the water, like just everything, like how like affordable it is compared to something like downtown Alvarado or something.
Yeah.
So where I'm at now versus where I would have been in Pacific Grove in that particular location, it's like, okay, this all worked out for the best.
Yeah.
So.
I think I've heard Fred say that too, because talking about being here, he's like, Cody said he'd pay whatever it took to stay here.
I'm like, give me the lease.
Whatever. I don't even care, right? This is the place, and it really is.
Well, parking is so hard in Monterey too.
Oh my God, right.
I always thought, like Alvarado would be such a great place, like the foot traffic, the farmer's market and all that. But parking is kind of a pain in the butt. I don't know if you've ever gone online and looked at what a place goes for on like Alvarado, but it's like, that's a lot of overhead.
There's a mall over there that you kind of walk in, and there's a lot of different stores in there. And I was talking with another massage therapist before I got this place, and, it's like, let's go in together. And I met him over at one of those offices that was clear, and he walked out of there so disappointed. Like, I thought you were serious, you know, and it was like, dude, I just saw it online. I just wanted to look at it.
I went to that exact same place.
And he never called me back, never talked to me again. It was like, that was the first place we looked at.
Yeah.
And then I got here, and he came in here not knowing that I was here after it's all set up, going, oh, you did okay. It's like, yeah, you sucker. You know, you just walked, man.
Yeah.
It's like, but you just got to keep looking, man. They're out there, right? I would have been tanked if I took that place. It was, like you said, it's so expensive.
I know exactly what place you're talking about, because when I was panicking, I looked at that place.
Right.
I went and I walked around, and it was just like too open. Like,
it would have sucked.
No, like the setup for like private room, restroom, and everything else. I'm like, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, right.
And then at like the beginning of Alvarado, I think it's a bank now, but it used to be a CD store way back in the day. There was like a spot above it that was available, so I went and checked it out, and it was more so like small, like office space. I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was slim pickings.
I wanted it to work because there's so much foot traffic, but they don't usually come upstairs, or they don't come wandering through, or they're not going to, oh, here's a massage place, let's go in, you know. You know. Yeah. I need like Cody out in the corner as my landmark, right? Do you know where Cody's is? Yep.
That's
we're right next door.
People come in for a piercing, and afterwards they're like, damn, I could really go for a massage now.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, I don't like to advertise, you know, because it's kind of a funny business. Some people look at massage differently, you know. So I just go by word of mouth, or just people on the internet. So I don't put massage on the front. So people, even though I've been here 10 years, they don't know where the heck where I am. It's like, oh God, I drive by there every day. I didn't even know you were there. Good.
I get that all the time too. Like, you know, people all the time that'll be like, I didn't even know you were here. Like,
isn't that weird?
Like, well, I think advertising is such like it's such a weird medium now from what it used to be.
True.
So like online advertising, it's like, you know, maybe it works here,
so
works
hit
there,
or miss.
But like the word of mouth is just, especially in such a small community like we have, like word of mouth is everything.
Right. Your employees are amazing too. I don't know them very well, but they do fit what you're saying. Get the little girl in, you know, make sure she's comfortable, make sure everything's good with her. It's like you can see that they're good people like that. You know, it's just really fantastic. Cool.
Yeah, everybody. I'm very, very fortunate. Like all of my employees, they're just, they're not only really great at their job, but they're just like great human beings.
Yeah,
like, just good people.
You just lost that one gal. She'd been here for years and years.
Oh, we had that person. Their name is Shay.
Shay,
and
okay.
They had been coming to me as a client to get pierced since they were a teenager. Did a bunch of piercings. And then later, I was like, oh, I need to find another employee for like front of house, like jewelry specialist.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, that person, Shay, like they're really into piercing. I really like their personality. They have a really good presence. So they came on board as a jewelry specialist. And then years went on, and I was like, I need another piercer. I need to get an apprentice. And I think they'd be a really good piercer. So they apprenticed under me for a little over 2 years. Things slowed down a little bit because of the pandemic.
I'm sorry to see Shay leave, because she's got such an infectious laugh. I can hear her through the wall. It just makes me in a good mood sometimes.
They were great. Yeah.
Right?
Shay, you know, sucked for us. Great for Shay.
Yeah.
Shay had been in a long-term relationship with a really nice guy named Tyler out in Seattle.
Yeah.
And Shay and I had like a little meeting together one day, like a little employee evaluation, you know, just checking in. And at the end of it, they were like, I'm gonna move. And I'm like, oh, damn it.
No, right.
So, I mean, they were super awesome,
best for them,
about it.
loss for you.
A big heads up. And
right
on. Okay, hate to see you. So they're in Seattle now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Piercing out
Doing
there.
well.
And their birthday is on Friday.
How about that?
Yeah. We miss Shay. Shay was. It was just great seeing them. Like, you know, they flew the nest and
cool. I know,
living their life now, and they've become a great piercer. So it's like, I miss you, but
they'll be friends for life too. Yeah. You'll see them at the piercing convention.
Exactly.
How cool.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So what's the plans for the future? What's next is the name of the podcast. Have you ever think about opening another shop? Or
I thought about, like, at some point I thought it'd be really nice to open a second location, ideally in a spot, like an area that doesn't already have like a good quality piercing studio.
Right.
But yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's hard to find good people, employees, staff. So maybe one of these days.
Yeah.
But the goal right now is just keep growing the business itself.
Yeah.
You know, more jewelry, more selection. I've got my apprentice right now that I'm training, Adriana, and she's absolutely amazing. Like, I'm so fortunate to have her as my apprentice. And I'm a workaholic. So
you're always here.
Just work and, take care of the family.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Watch the kids grow up and just
full-time job.
Yeah, just enjoy life.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in today, man.
My pleasure.
I've learned so much.
It was great being here.
Yeah, right on. Cool. Thank you, brother. All right. Talk to you real soon. Thanks for watching, guys, man. I had a blast today. If you found any value, hit the subscribe button. I guess that does something with the algorithms or something. I don't know. So do that, and I love you guys. Talk to you soon. See you.